joining us at this launch of the 50 years celebration of the European Union-Uganda partnership. And let me also thank you immediately for what you do. You tell Uganda's story every day, the wins, the worries, the debates, the changes. And for 50 years, you have also helped to tell our shared story, the partnership between Uganda and the European Union. So today is really a milestone. 2026 marks 50 years of European Union presence and partnership in Uganda. Since the EU delegation opened its offices here in Kampala in 1976. I was then 5 years old, and when I look at you, I realize many of you were not even born in 1976. I don't know about Ambassador Ngarba. That's half a century, and that's long enough for big changes, and long enough for one simple truth. Partnerships matter, especially the long-term ones. And yes, we all love anniversaries. We like anything with a round number, and you can see the beautiful round number that we have in its European Union shape here. But this anniversary is not about a number. It is about people and results, and that is what I want to tell you about today. When the European Union opened here in 1976, Uganda and Europe were both navigating complex situations. Over time, the European Union became a union of 27 member states. 10 of them have diplomatic representation here in Uganda, and many have honorary consuls. And Uganda has gone through profound transformation and also strengthened its regional role and its global voice, today even chairing the non-aligned movement. Through all of these shifts, the partnership endured because it was built on continuity, dialogue, and trust, including in difficult moments. 50 years is a long time, so what are we actually celebrating? We are celebrating something simple but powerful, a partnership that has lasted, adapted, and delivered. Over these 50 years, the European Union has invested over 5 billion euros in development cooperation in Uganda. And alongside that, we estimate roughly another 5 billion euros in European private investment. Companies building, trading, employing, and innovating in Uganda, and taking long-term bets on Uganda's future. That combination matters. Public partnership and private enterprise, working in the same direction toward opportunity, jobs, services, and resilience. And the results are not abstract. They show up in everyday life, in schools, at skills, in clinics and communities, in roads and energy, in refugee hosting districts, and increasingly in trade and investment that create jobs. One place where this partnership has been visible in very human terms is northern Uganda. Conflict left deep scars, social, economic, personal. The EU stood with the communities during recovery, rebuilding, restoring livelihoods, strengthening local governance, and reconnecting the region to national development through programs like the Development Initiative for Northern Uganda. The lesson from that experience is simple. Peace and development are inseparable. Beyond the north, EU cooperation has left tangible footprints across Uganda. From major connectivity investments like the Kampala Northern Bypass and key road corridors such as Mbarara-Katuna and the newly upgraded Atiak-Larobe link, to long-standing support for Uganda's national parks and protected areas that underpin tourism and conservation, and decades of investment in health and education services, including stronger maternal and child health and expanded access to learning and skills. Ladies and gentlemen, today our cooperation is increasingly forward-looking. Job creation, sustainable growth, climate resilience, and governance and social inclusion. These are our priorities. Through the EU-Uganda Forest Partnership and related initiatives, we support landscape restoration and sustainable value chains. Because protecting forests is not only about nature, it is also about livelihoods and green jobs. And under the EU's Global Gateway strategy, we are scaling up sustainable infrastructure investment, the kind that powers industry, services, digitalization, and jobs. A flagship example is the Nalubale Chira hydropower rehabilitation, a 30 million euro grant designed to unlock major loans from the European Investment Bank and other partners, with the ambition to start phase 1 in 2026 and works thereafter. That is what the Global Gateway is meant to do. I guess you have heard about the Global Gateway before, and that is what it is meant to do, to mobilize serious, sustainable investment, not for headlines, but for long-term impact. Trade is another pillar where the partnership is delivering tangible results. Uganda benefits from duty-free, quota-free access to the lucrative EU market, notably through a facility called Everything But Arms, meaning that Uganda can export everything but arms on a quota-free, duty-free facility. And this is not a technical detail, it is a real advantage for Ugandan producers and workers. And the numbers tell a story worth reporting. Since 2019, Ugandan exports to the EU have almost tripled, from about 500 million euro to about 1.5 billion. Between 2023 and 2024 alone, exports grew by 58%, and Uganda has now recorded a positive trade balance with the European Union since 2022. It's, I think, a marvelous basis for more future trade in both directions. If one product symbolizes our partnership, and I already spoke about it, is of course coffee. Europe remains a key destination for Ugandan coffee, and EU support helps strengthen quality, certification, traceability, and climate resilience, increasingly also to meet new sustainability requirements. But the real story is not just volume, it is value. More processing, more quality, more resilience, and more income reaching farmers and cooperatives, and more jobs along the value chain. A coffee, and I've said it before, for me it's really the link, the bridge between Uganda and the European Union, or the hyphen in the European Union, Uganda partnership. Such an important factor in our relationship. And the picture I always want to paint is how we, the Europeans, when we drink our coffee, our breakfast coffee in the morning, we put bread on the table for millions of Ugandans. We pay school fees in Uganda. We pay, the doctors' fees. I think that's a beautiful picture to paint this important link, really a win-win situation. Many people here in Uganda depend on that income. We are also seeing encouraging diversification, and I welcome, not only coffee but other produce as well. And I welcome the recent decision, it's just this week actually, that authorizes exports of Ugandan farmed finfish and finfish products to the European Union. And this is a strong signal of confidence in systems and standards here in Uganda, and it opens another channel for growth, jobs, and investment. But we are not only watching trade, we are building platforms where business can happen. And the Uganda EU Business Forum, we have had 4 of them, 4 editions since 2020. They have strengthened commercial ties and investment flows. And a 5th business forum is planned later this year. We want it to be bigger, more practical, and even more focused on investment and job creation. Uganda matters to the European Union not only economically, but strategically. Uganda's contribution to regional stability is widely recognized, and the EU supports peace and stability in the region through dialogue, partnership, and support to the humanitarian development peace nexus. I do want to underline that on peace and security and on humanitarian principles, as well as in all other areas, we aim to be exactly what we say we are, a predictable and reliable partner. So you can count on the European Union. Partnerships are ultimately judged by what they do for people. And that is why education, inclusion, and health are at the heart of what we do. Through Erasmus Plus and broader academic cooperation, Ugandan students and researchers have built connections with European institutions and returned with new skills and networks. And on 4th of June, we will host the European Union Uganda Study Fair at the Makerere University, together with EU member states, with Team Europe, as we say, to connect young Ugandans to universities, scholarships, and real opportunities. And again, speaking about youth, it's a pleasure to have the Youth Sounding Board represented here. Really, you will accompany us and guide us into the future here in Uganda and make an impact also for the coming 50 years. Thanks again for being here. We also work on social inclusion, especially for girls and vulnerable learners, including safer learning environments and WASH in schools, water and sanitation in Saudi schools, and action to reduce gender-based violence through major Team Europe efforts. And we do not separate development from values. The EU continues to support governance reforms, civil society, and human rights initiatives because sustainable development depends on accountable institutions, the rule of law, and inclusive participation. Ladies and gentlemen, with this meeting with you, we launch the 50 years celebrations. So what happens next? We are preparing more activities and a stronger presence than before at key moments this year, including the Europe Day celebrations in May, and at the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo and the Renewable Energy Conference also later this year. And this celebration will not just stay here in Kampala. We intend to celebrate it also in other parts of the country, including Kisoro, where I will be running the Virunga Gorilla Marathon in May, or at least that's what my colleagues tell me I must do. I will do that. I will do that. It's a great way, I think, to promote tourism, climate action, and community spirit, and also quite a humbling realization for an ambassador that to know that gorillas are far more athletic than ambassadors. Let's see about that. And last but not least, we are collecting stories and images of the EU's legacy in Uganda. We want to collect some photos, personal accounts, and then and now moments that capture what cooperation has meant in real places and real lives. So we are looking for people who have been involved in our partnership for these 50 years. And the goal is a coffee table book, an exhibition, and the social media series. So perhaps also you in the audience, journalists and others, you can help us if you have archives, images, or stories that could be included. Please share them with us, and I promise we shall of course invite you back when the exhibition is open. And one more thing that makes me happy, genuinely, is our new delegation office. It's a standalone building dedicated for the EU delegation. It's right now under renovation, and we plan to move in later this year. It's not just a building, I would say. It's an important symbol of our partnership and a springboard for the next 50 years. Let me now, ladies and gentlemen, close with some gratitude, starting with the government represented here. Thank you for your engagement and your cooperation in our partnership today during these 50 years and when we look ahead for the next 50 years. I thank also the civil society, the private sector, all other stakeholders and communities across Uganda. I thank you for your partnership and for your ideas. And to you, the media gathered here, I thank you for your interest and for following this relationship for decades. Partnerships need accountability as much as they need funding, and the journalists are really part of that ecosystem. 50 years on, we are proud of what we have achieved and even more energized of what is possible next. Because the best partnerships do not just celebrate history, they use history as fuel. 50 years on, the partnership is strong and its next chapter will be written together with you here. I thank you now for listening to my remarks, and I will be available, of course, together with my colleagues here for a discussion, for your questions. And I think this is also an opportunity to open a bit our doors at the delegation, to introduce my colleagues here, my deputy, our head of cooperation, our humanitarian office head who will join us later, and others like Jacob, Barilan, and Tok, so that you get faces on who is actually in the delegation and who you can contact when you have questions or need to know what the EU thinks on the different aspects of our work here in Uganda. You're always welcome to contact us, and these are the faces on my corporate members of staff here. So with that, I think I conclude my official remarks. I will sit down again, and I invite Ambassador Mugarva if you want to replicate something. I know that you're unprepared and you came directly from your office, not knowing that you would be here today, but you agreed to say a few things on this occasion. So I welcome you.